Earlier, we walked through the process of creating the FingerPaint mobile app using AppInventor. We're going to use where we left off there as our starting point to change how the red, green, and blue buttons behave. Instead of having each of these three buttons pick a specific color, what if instead it was more of a color mixer, where we added a little bit more red or more green or blue to the current color that we are finger painting with? That's our goal for this next step. Each color in a computer world is represented as RGB, red, green, blue. The more red, green, and blue we add, the more it becomes red, green, or blue. But if we add enough of each of these three colors, they'll actually start turning white. They create white pixels. So in order to balance that and give you a way to come back from adding red, green, and blue to your current color, let's add one more button for black. Just like before, we'll create a button with a background. This time I'm going to set the text color. And of course, for a good style, I'm going to rename it. So the logic for actually mixing colors can get a little bit complicated, but it's not beyond what we can do here. So colors are listed as RGB. And I have a couple blocks down here under the color palette for making colors and splitting colors. We're going to end up using both of those. So split will take a color and break it up into a list of three values representing R, G, and B. Once we have those three values, we can take one, modify it, and then reassemble the list to make a new color with those three new values, one of which might be a little bit more red, green, or blue than what we started with. So let's go to the paint canvas, get our paint color, and use that as our input to split color. That will return back a list of three items. We're going to select an item from the list based off the index. So selecting the first is selecting the R, or the red, which will be a number between 0, meaning no red, all the way up to 255, meaning all the red. All zeros for RGB gives us a black color. All 255s gives us a white color. So in this case, I've extracted out the value of the red color. I can duplicate this and use indexes 1, 2, and 3 to get the red, green, and blue. Then I can use math to add some amount to each of these. Because this logic is getting a little bit complicated, and we know we're going to need it 3 times, or 4 because we'll have the black button as well, this is a great place to use a procedure. A procedure allows us to define a new block that does a certain piece of behavior that we want to be both reusable and easily extracted from the logic of the rest of our application. So I'm going to create a new stored procedure here called mix color. And if I click on the little widget here in the top corner, the little gear, it allows me to add some inputs to my procedure. The three inputs I'm going to need are first the starting color, and then how much I want to change the red, green, or blue. We looked at make color earlier. Actually, I realized I've gotten the wrong procedure. You'll notice there's two different types of procedures. there's ones that do an action, and there's ones that return a result. In this case, we actually want the ones that return a result because we're creating a new color. So in this case, the result that we're returning is a color, which we'll create from a list. And the three values that feed into that list is the new value of red, green, and blue. And the amount that red, green, and blue will change will be the amount that we pass into our procedure. So with this reusable procedure, it becomes much easier for us to update our red, green, blue, and soon black buttons so that we can change the paint color to a new color that's a little more red, a little more green, or a little more blue without becoming completely red, green, or blue. So I'm going to change what I have now as paint canvas, paint color, setting it to red. Instead, I'm going to use and set the value based off the output of my procedure, where the incoming color is the current paint canvas, and since this is red, I want to increase the amount of red by 20, and I'm going to set green and blue to be 0, meaning I'm not changing them. The amount that we're adding is 0, but the amount we're adding to red is 20. And I can do the same thing for green, for blue. I'm just going to simply duplicate these blocks so I don't have to put them together again. For green, I want red and blue to stay the same, and I want to add an additional 20 to the green color. And then for my new black button, I want very similar logic, except instead of adding, I'm going to subtract 20 from red, green, and blue, making the colors a little bit darker. If I click black enough, it'll subtract them all the way down to 0, and I'll have the black color. If I click red, green, and blue enough, I'll slowly make more green, more red, more blue, until I have the color white, when all values are set at 255. So with that, we've created our own procedure to allow mixing colors, and then we've used it in our buttons to make our color palette one where we can mix different colors together instead of having to choose just preset values. My name is Lee Adcock. Thanks for coding with me.